Good morning, everybody. Today we are learning the last method of solving systems of equations, and it's called elimination, which is the most commonly used method when there are two equations that are both in standard form. But before that, let's learn and review the previous method, which is called the substitution. And in substitution, you use substitution when you have one equation that is in slope-intercept form or seemingly slope-intercept form where x and y are separated, and one equation that is in standard form in which the x and y are together. So let's review how to use solve for x and y when you have this type of systems of equations. So since you have a standard form, which is x and y together, and a kind of like a slope-intercept form where x and y are kind of separated, well, your first thing is to rewrite the standard form with the substitution where if you see an x, you're going to replace it with a expressions of y. So when you rewrite this standard form, it becomes 2. And then instead of writing an x, you're going to leave it blank for now and then copy the rest of the equation. And since from the first equation, you know that the variable x is equivalent to the expressions 3 minus y, whenever you see an x on the second equation, you're not going to write an x, but you're going to replace it with 3 minus y, like this. And then from here, you're able to solve this linear equation because everything is in one variable only, which is only the y, the letter y. So to solve this equation further, you're going to distribute the 2 to the 3 and the negative y, which is going to get you 6 minus 2y, and then minus another y is equal to 6. Then from here, you combine like terms, right? Negative 2y minus y is negative 3y. So you write 6 minus 3y is equal to 6. Then from there, to isolate the variable, you subtract the constant because this is a positive 6, so the opposite of positive 6 is minus 6, right? So these 6 gets canceled, so you're left with negative 3y is equal to 0, because 6 minus 6 is 0. And at the end, you don't stop here. You continue to isolate the variable by dividing both sides by negative 3. So you have y is equal to 0 divided by anything. It's just same as 0. So you found one of the two answers. Well, to find the other answers, feel free to plug in 0 into one of these two equations. But if I were you, I would pick the easiest one. And it looks like the top equation is the easiest equation because it looks shorter and probably less things to simplify. So what you do is you rewrite this equation. X is equal to 3 minus y. And you replace the y with 0. So x is equal to 3 minus, instead of y, you're going to write 0. And then you subtract what is 3 minus 0, which is going to be 3. And that means, you found two answers. So we're going to put them in an order pair. So x comes first before y. So you're going to write open parentheses, 3 comma 0 close parentheses. And these are the two answers to the systems of equations. Now, to check whether your answer is correct very quickly, now you already found the x value from the first equation. So if you want to check whether these two numbers also satisfy the second equations, all you have to do is just plug it in. So I'm just going to quickly plug it in. Let's use a different color of pen, right? So we're going to rewrite this equation 2, and then for the x you replace it with a 3, and then the y you replace it with 0. You want to see if the left side equals to the right side. So 2 times 3 is 6. So 6 minus 0, is it really equal to 6? Yes. So that means 6 equals 6, and therefore this x and y value satisfy the first equation as well as satisfy the second equations. And that's how you know your answer is correct. Well, let's start 4-3, systems of equations by eliminations. And the definition of elimination is you're going to add both equations together to eliminate a variable. So it sounds kind of like, it's not really quite, the picture is not there yet. But as we are continuing with these examples, then you know the process of eliminations. And elimination works well if both equations are in standard form. So if you look at example 1a, I see that x and y are together on the first equation and x and y are together on the second equation. So these two equations are both in standard form, just like example 1b as well. So let's take a look at example 1a, right? So I see that there is an equation, 2x plus y is equal to 3, and also x minus y is equal to 3 as well. And your goal is, again, solve x and y. So to do that, you first check, are there any x's and y's, are there any variables that has totally opposite sign and has the same coefficient? Coefficient means the number in front of the letter. Now, I see that for the x's, there's a 2 and an invisible 1. They're not opposite, right? But if you look at the y, this y has a positive 1 in front of it, and this y has a negative 1 in front of it. So here's the trick. We're going to add the equations vertically. We're going to put a plus sign, just like how you add numbers back in elementary school. You know how when you add numbers, right? If you treat these as numbers, you're going to add vertically like this. So let's take a look. So 2x plus x, right? 2x plus 1x is 3x. And then y plus negative y, right? So when you have the opposite sign add together, these cancel. And then you bring down the equal sign, and then 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. You're like, hey, I could solve this equation because this equation is just a very simple one-step equation in the variable x only. So you're left with 3x is equal to 6. So guess what? You divide both sides by 3. And you get x equals 2. And you found one of the two answers. Isn't that so fast, everybody? You found one of the two answers. So guess what? You're going to plug it, the 2 into one of these two equations to find what is y. Now, which one seems easier to you? If I were you, I would pick the bottom one because the bottom one seems to be shorter and probably less numbered, right? In terms of just looking at it. So I'll rewrite this equation, x minus y is equal to 3. Replace the x with 2, so 2 minus y is equal to 3. Then from there, you solve this equation. You subtract 2 on both sides, right? You cancel the 2. Then you're left with negative y. Don't forget the negative here. So negative y is equal to positive 1. And you divide both sides by negative 1. So you get y is equal to negative 1. Boom, you found two answers, and when you combine these together, you're going to write the order pair open parentheses 2 comma negative 1 close parentheses like this. Now, to check whether your answer is correct or not, quickly, just very quickly, plug these two numbers in. So let's plug into this equation. 2 minus negative 1, you do get 3. So that means these two answers satisfy the bottom equations. As well as the top equation, let's take a look. 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 plus negative 1, you do get 3 as well. So that means that's how I could check these two answers are correct for these two equations. So the trick is, when you have two standard form, always look for the letter, either x or y, or one of the two letters that has totally opposite numbers. So positive 1, negative 1, or positive 5, negative 5, positive 10, negative 10, positive 7, negative 7, things like that, okay? Well, let's take a look at example 1b. It's going to be the same process. Go ahead and take a look at the x and the y. Which of these letters have totally opposite numbers? Right, it's going to be the x ones because the x has positive 6 and negative 6. And as long as you see two numbers that are totally opposite, you could add them together. If not, then you cannot add them. And we'll talk about how do you do that when you don't see any numbers that are opposite. So since I see that for the x, I see there are positive 6 and negative 6, I could immediately add them like this. Okay, so 6 plus negative 6 is gone. Negative 7 plus 3 would be negative 4y. And then 14 plus negative 6, and you could use a calculator, right, which is positive 8. And from there, boom. So the x's are gone, you're left with y, right? This equation is a one-step equation with the variable y. So to isolate the variable, you divide both sides by negative 4, and you'll get y is equal to negative 2. Well, you found one of the two answers. And to do that, to find the other answer, you simply plug it back into the easiest looking equation. Now, which one seems easier to you? If I were you, I would pick the bottom one because the bottom one seems to have numbers that are a little bit smaller. So if I were to plug it in, multiply, whatever, it's easier for me to work with smaller numbers. So I'm going to use this equation, rewrite it, negative 6x plus 3y is equal to negative 6. Replace the y with negative 2. So negative 6x plus 3 and then times negative 2 is equal to negative 6. And then from there, you solve for x. Well, let's multiply these two. So negative 6x minus 6 is equal to negative 6. Well, you're going to add 6 on both sides, plus 6 and plus 6. I'm almost running out of space, but that's okay. So you're left with negative 6x is equal to 0. Okay, and then divide both sides by negative 6. Divide both sides by negative 6. So you get x is equal to 0. So you found the second answer. And to put these two answers together, you're going to write them as an ordered pair like this. Open parentheses, 0, comma, -2, close parentheses. Okay. And again, to check whether your answer is correct, simply plug in these x's and y's into these two equations to check whether the left side of the equation is equivalent to the right side of the equation. Well, in example 2a and 2b, let's take a look at something that I'm sure some of you are going to ask this question. Because some of you are probably going to wonder, like, well, what happens if I see an equation or two equations that do not have opposite sign? Like, what do I do? Because I don't see 3 and -3, I don't see 5, -5, or 2 and -2. What do I do? In example 2a, the equation is 3a plus 5b is equal to 1. And the second equation is a plus 2b is equal to 0. So first, I see that, well, 5 and 2 are not opposite, and 3 and 1 are not opposite. I mean, they're all positive, actually. But I was wondering, well, since I have the a, right? Well, the bottom equation, I have a with a coefficient of 1 in the front. Can I multiply the bottom equation by numbers so that it becomes 3? And what you could do is you could multiply the bottom equation, right? First, before you add them, you multiply the bottom equation because there's a 1 here, invisible 1. You're going to multiply by 3 on both sides. But hold on, don't do this, don't do the calculation yet, because this is still positive 3 and this is still positive 3, and you want them to have opposite sign. So instead of multiplying both sides of the equation by positive 3, you're going to multiply by -3, so that way this becomes 3a and this becomes -3a. Now, when you multiply equations with a number, you're going to distribute the terms like this. So let's rewrite the system again on the right side of the first system. So I'm going to recopy the first equation the same. And then you're going to distribute the -3 into the a, the 2b, as well as the 0. So -3 times a is -3a. -3 times 2b is -6b. And then 0 times -3 is just 0. Look at that. Now you have a system of equation with opposite numbers. So 3a and -3a. From there, you could add them together now. So let me rewrite this, right? So I'm going to add them. Okay. And then 3a and -3a. When you add them, it's gone. Then 5 plus -6. What is 5 plus -6? That becomes -1b is equal to 1 plus 0, which is 1 right there. And then from there, you divide both sides by -1, like this. So you get b is equal to -1. You found one of the two answers, okay? And to find the other answer, you simply plug it back into the easier equation, which most likely is going to be the bottom one. So you're going to rewrite this. A plus 2b is equal to 0. You replace the b with -1. So a plus 2 times -1 is equal to 0. Then you have a minus 2 is equal to 0. And then you add 2 on both sides of the equation. So you're going to get a is equal to 2. So that means when you combine these, you're like, well, they're not x and y. How do you write it as an ordered pair? Well, you're going to put them in alphabetical order. So between a and b, a comes first before b. So you're going to write it as 2 comma -1. And that's your final answer. Well, to check that your answer is correct, I want to plug it back into both of the equation. Now, if you notice, I already plug it back into the second equation here, so I don't have to check it again. All I have to check to see is that are these two numbers, do these two numbers matches satisfy the first equation? So let's check really quick. So we're going to check here. So you're going to write 3a plus 5b. Is it really equal to 1? So let's check. So replace the a with 2. And then you replace the b with -1. And see if when you combine them using order of operations, do you get 1? So 3 times 2 is 6. And then 5 times -1 is -5. The 6 minus 5 equals 1. And the answer is yes. So you know that your answer, 2 comma -1, is correct. In example 2b, you're going to do the same thing. So here, instead of a and b, is a and c. So let's take a look. You have 6a plus 7c is equal to 8. 2a plus 5c is equal to 8. Let's take a look at a and c. Can I have 5 multiplied by something to get 7? I don't think so, because 7 is not a multiple of 5. But is 6 a multiple of 2? Can 2 multiply by something to get to 6? And the answer is yes. So what you do is you're going to multiply the bottom equation by, since 2 times 3 equals 6, you're going to multiply by 3. But hold on, since you want these 6's to be opposite sign, instead of multiply by positive 3, you multiply by negative 3, and then you do distributive property. So let's rewrite the system of equations. So you're going to get something like, well, let's draw a flow chart. You're going to recopy the first equation, 6a plus 7c is equal to 8. And once you distribute the second equation by negative 3, you get negative 6a minus 15c is equal to negative 24. Look at that. I see that a has opposite coefficient now, 6 and negative 6. Now I could add them. So let's add the equation. So 6a and negative 6a cancel. 7 plus negative 15 will be, so you could do 15 minus 7, which is 8, but it's going to be negative 8c. And then 8 plus negative 24 would be negative 16. And then from there, you divide both sides by negative 8. And then you get c is equal to negative 16 divided by negative 8 is positive 2. Well, you found one of the two answers. Let's use an easy equation to find the other answer, which most likely is going to be, again, the second one. So you're going to recopy the second equation. Okay. Well, you replace the c with 2, positive 2 is equal to 8. And then you use order of operations, so 5 times 2 is 10. So 2a plus 10 is equal to 8. Then you subtract 10 on both sides, like this. And you get 2a is equal to negative 2. Then at the end, divide both sides by positive 2. And you get a is equal to negative 1. And then you found the second answer. Well, to put them together in an order pair, a comes first before c in the alphabet. So you're going to write open parentheses, negative 1, comma 2. And then that's your final answer. Well, on your homework, there will be one word problem that is similar to example 3. So let's take a look at example 3. And I'm sure that you have seen this type of examples before on your homework. Remember Alex and apples and oranges? That's from the previous worksheet that was assigned. But let's take a look. It says Alex bought 9 apples and 4 oranges for $30. Next day, he bought 2 apples and 6 oranges for $22. I want to find out how much does each orange cost and how much does each apple cost. Well, to do that, let's define some variables. Let's say I'm going to use A for the cost of apple. So I first have to define what A stands for before I forget what is A stands for. So I'm going to write it here to remind myself what is A stands for. And for oranges, I don't want to use O because it looks like it's 0. Maybe I'll use R, right? Because that's the next letter. So let R be the cost of orange. Okay. Somehow I say 4. I don't know why. It should be B. So let A be the cost of apple. And let R be the cost of orange. So that way you know which letter is for which of these fruit. So let's translate each sentences, right? So the first sentence says 9 apples. So that's going to be 9A. And means plus. 4 oranges. So 4R is equal to 30. That's your first equation. And then the next day he bought 2 apples. So 2A. And means plus. And then 6 oranges is 6R is equal to 22. So you have these systems of equations. Now, hold on. I see something's wrong here because I need to find, out of these 2 letters, is one of them a multiple of the other? Let's take a look. Can 2 multiply anything to get to 9? No. 9 is not a multiple of 2. Can 4 multiply by a whole number to get to 6? Also no, because 6 is not a multiple of 4. Well, I am stuck here. Well, another strategy is that if you have no letters that has in which one number is a multiple of the other, what you could do is you could find something called least common multiple, LCM, okay, which you kind of have learned it in elementary school. So I could choose either 4 and 6 or 9 and 2 and then find the LCM. So let's choose 4 and 6, right? So let's say 4 and 6, and you're going to list the multiples of 4 and 6, and then you see which number appears first on both lists of multiples. So 4 is 4, 8, 12, 16, so on and so forth. And then 6 is 6, 12, 18, 24, so on and so forth. And I see that there's one number that pops up in both lists, which is 12. So what you do is you're going to multiply both equations, not just one, but both equations at the same time, so that way the r becomes 12. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Let's rewrite the equation. So 9a plus 4r is equal to 30. 2a plus 6r is equal to 22. Well, let's take a look at this 4. 4 times what number so that you could get to 12? So 4 times what is 12? And the answer is 3. So you're going to multiply the first equation by 3. Then let's take a look at the second equation. 6 times what is 12? 6 times what number is 12? And the answer is 2. So you're going to multiply the bottom equation by 2. Now, if you do 3 times 4, you get positive 12. And if you do 2 times 6, you get positive 12. Well, they're both positive. So you're going to make one of them negative. So you could multiply the bottom equation by negative, or you can multiply the top equation by negative. It's really up to you, okay? Well, now here's the hardest part. You're going to distribute 6 times. So you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just be careful on this step, okay? So 3 times 9 is 27a. 3 times 4 is plus 12r. 3 times 30 is 90. Then negative 2 times 2 is negative 4a. Negative 2 times 6 is negative 12r. And negative 2 times 22 is negative 44. Hey, the 12s are opposite. I could add them now. So let's add them. So 27a plus negative 4a is 23a. Well, the 12 and negative 12 cancel. And then 90 minus 44, what is that? Well, just in case, I could use a calculator. 90 minus 44, which is 46, right? 46. Now, let me ask you this. Does 23 goes into 46 evenly? And the answer is yes. So in these kind of problems, your answer should be whole numbers, very, very nice whole numbers. There's no decimals, no fractions, and if it's a decimal, it's a nice decimal, like half, right? Like 0.5. Nothing like ugly like 0.12 or 0.23, 0.365, like that, right? But if you divide both sides by 23, let's come back to this problem. You see that, well, 46 divided by 23 is exactly 2. You're like, hey, the cost of an apple is $2. So I found one of the answer right there. Well, how do you find the cost of an orange? You simply plug it back into one of the 2 easy equations. So I would say this, the second one. So it's going to be 2a plus 6r is equal to 22. Replace the a with 2, okay, plus 6r is equal to 22. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 plus 6r is 22. Okay, and then from there you subtract 4 on both sides. So 6r is equal to, 18, right? And then when you divide both sides by 6, you get r is equal to 3. That means the cost of an orange is $3. And it kind of makes sense, In real life, the cost of an apple, cost of an orange may be very, very close to a reasonable value, right? So that's how you solve a system of equations when you have coefficients that are not multiple of the other. Now, alternatively, instead of finding LCM of 4 and 6, some people might ask, well, can I find LCM of 9 and 2 instead? Because it might be a little bit easier. And then the answer is yes. Now, I don't know whether it's going to be easier or not, but you could definitely find LCM of 9 and 2. So let's actually redo this problem by finding the LCM of 9 and 2 instead. So I'm going to write LCM like this, and I'm going to list the multiples of 9 and multiples of 2. So 9 would be 9, 18, 27, so on and so forth. 2 would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. And I see that both lists has the number 18 appear on the list. So what you do is you're going to rewrite the equation. 9a plus 4r is equal to 30. And then 2a plus 6r is equal to 22. Now let me ask you, 9 times what number is 18? Well, the answer is 2, so you're going to multiply the first equation by 2. Well, what about the second equation? 2 times what number is 18? Well, the answer is going to be 9. Okay, so we're going to multiply the second equation by 9. But you notice, if you do 2 times 9, 9 times 2, you both get positive 18. And you need one of the 18 to be a negative. So what you do is you're going to multiply one of the equation by a negative number. So in this case, I choose the second one. So from here, you're going to be careful. You're going to distribute 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like this. So that's the hardest part, is to, multiply correctly. 2 times 9 is 18. 2 times 4 is 8r plus 8r. 30 times 2 is 60. Then on the second equation, negative 9 times 2 is negative 18a. Negative 9 times positive 6 is negative 54r. And then 22 times 9, negative 9, with the calculator is negative 198. Well, the numbers are kind of large, so we need to use a calculator to, add and subtract these numbers. But you notice that the 18 and negative 18, they're opposite signs, so you could add them, and that way they could cancel. And then from there, you do 8 plus negative 54. So on the math calculator, I'm going to put 8 minus 54, and I'll get negative 46R. And then 60 minus 198, let's see what it is. 60 minus 198, and I'll get negative 138. Okay, and then divide both sides by negative 46, which is kind of large to do it mentally. But at the end, if you put it in your calculator, so negative 138 divided by negative 46, I'll get positive 3. Hey, isn't that the answer matches from here, right? They both matches, r equals 3. And then from there, you plug it back into one of the equation, and then at the end, you should get a equals 2 as well. So here, I'm kind of skipping some step just because it's just, when you substitute r equals 3 back to one of these two equations, the process will be the same, and therefore, I'm skipping that step right there. So there's many ways for you to find the LCM. You can find the LCM for the first letter, or you can find the LCM of the second letter. They both will get you the correct answer. And this is how you do systems of equations with eliminations. And here's also an instructions for you to review how do you log into your homework. Thank you.
Hey everyone, so to get to your homework, first you go to my CNUSD website and then you click on the top of the page, my CNUSD, to log in. Well, you're going to type in your username and your password. Well, in this case, your student ID and your password. Then you go on to resource. I think for you guys it's resource. And then you go to a place called Pearson Savas Easy. Pearson Savas Easy. I'm not quite sure how you say that word, but it's Pearson Easy. Click on that. And you get to this pop-up page. And you're going to click on your class textbook. So you click on this right here. This is called Envision Integrated Mathematics 1 2009 Common Core. You click on that, a new window pop up again, and you see 3 different colors. The green color is your online textbooks. I teach from this textbooks. So if you don't have a copy, an actual copy, you could always go to here and click on the appropriate sections that we're teaching. But to find your online homework, you look at the reddish, orangish box in between, in the middle. It's called classes. So you're gonna click on here, click on classes, and depending on which period you're in, there will be new assignments here. So you're going to click on click into the assignments, and then do your homework, and then that's it. Well, inside the homework, there are problems for you to work on, which allow you 3 attempts before they give you the final answer. So for example, for this problem, if you accidentally got a wrong answer, it'll tell you keep trying. Then you type in another answer, and if it's wrong, then it'll give you one more chance. And the third time that you got it wrong, it'll tell you the answer right away. So, but you could always get help by viewing an example on this part of the feature. So it'll tell you what to do step by step, step by step, step by step until the final answer. So you could always refer to the question, help view an example, or you could use help me to solve this to actually work it step by step. So there will be more answer boxes for you to fill in, but at least it will help you on your learning. Now for this problem, what do you do when you get it wrong, right? So well, to get a point or to get scores on that homework, then you click on similar questions and you keep practicing until you get it right. So if I were to click on similar questions, you notice that the questions changed. It's different from the previous one. So let's say this time you got it right. Let's say x is equal to 5, right? Well, if you got it right, it will tell you well done, okay, and then you move on to the next problem. So you click on next to move on to the next problem, like this. And once you finish all the problem, I believe the next thing is for you to make sure that you answer all the questions. If there's anything that it's not answered, make sure that you go back and look at it like this, right? So this is not answered. But let's say assume that if you finish your all of the questions on your homework, then you go to the bottom, I believe. Oh, actually, this button right here says submit my work. So you click on it, and then boom, I only got 3% just because I only answered one question correct, the rest I did not answer. So in order for you to get at least 80% or any good scores, make sure that you answer every single question and it's correct, not incorrect, for you to get as many points as possible on your homework. If you have any questions, please contact me.